Greetings from Terry here at D-Lab. This morning I just wrapped up repairing a Fender Bass Breaker 15 amplifier. It was actually just bad tubes, so I'm not going to show that repair because I think you all know how to plug in tubes, right? But what I want to do now is just kind of review the amp. I'll take you through a little guided tour, show you how it's built, and then later on today, hopefully, I can get the owner to come over and play it because he is one heck of a guitarist. You're going to like this. Here we go. The chassis has been pulled, obviously, for my maintenance, and I always give them a good inspection. So it's a good opportunity to show you how it's built. You can see Fender didn't skimp on the iron. Got one heck of a power transformer, choke, output transformer, built on this metal chassis, and unfortunately it's very difficult to get in here and do any work. I'll show you that in a minute. There's your tube lineup, pair of 6BQ5s, 3 12AX7s. As you can see here from the little tag inside, that is the lineup. And it drives a 12-inch Celestion G12 speaker. So I hear this thing's a real powerhouse. We'll find that out a little bit later. The cabinet is actually very rugged. 3/4 inch, I believe, birch construction. It's pretty heavy. This thing weighs about 40 pounds. Output power is rated at 15 watts, Class AB. If you have one of these Fender Bass Breaker 15s and you want to change your output tubes, there's one really nice feature I wanted to point out on this amp. Okay, so I'm monitoring pin 3, which is the cathode of one of the 6BQ5 outputs. You can see I've got 240 ohms to ground. This is a cathode biased amp. So there is no negative bias adjustments to set the current through the tubes, which makes replacement easy. You just buy yourself a nice matched pair, plug them in, and you're off and running. So the output tube configuration is a definite plus for this design, but here is where we show a few negatives. Okay. Unfortunately, the way this chassis is built, this thing is very difficult to work on. Alright, so they encapsulated everything in this rectangular chassis, and you can see here in the end it's full of circus boards, right? And they're in every different direction. I mean, can you imagine having to get in here and work on this thing? It would be a nightmare. I do not see an easy way of getting this thing apart. Even control cleaning is difficult. Alright, luckily the only pot on this one that was dirty was the gain pot, and I'm able to see it right under there. You can just barely see the gain potentiometer. And I was able to get some contact cleaner up inside and spray that control. So even control cleaning can be difficult on this amp, and obviously if you take this thing all apart to work on it, putting it back together would be tricky, and you sure don't want to miss anything and have to open it back up. Chassis removal and installation is pretty easy on this one. It's not like the old amps where you try to put it in and everything binds up. This one slides in with plenty of clearance. It got 2 screws on top, and then there's 2 screws on each side, so it's held in there very securely. One thing I noted I need to share with you is there is an impedance select switch here. When it came to the shop, it was set at 4, right? Well, if you take a look at the Celestion speaker, you can see on the tag that is an 8 ohm speaker, right? So make sure when you're done that you set that impedance back to what it should be. So I've got the amp fired up. And one thing I wanted to point out was a speaker lead. You can see it's kind of hardwired into the amp with the spades. I prefer one of the 1/4 inch plugs that go into the chassis, but that's no big deal. One thing I thought was kind of cool is when you power it up and you're in standby, they had a flashing indicator light, right? So that's kind of nice, gives you a heads up that, hey, I don't have any sound. Oh, my standby is on, right? So we'll turn that off, and then she goes solid. Right now I just got a plug in there so you can hear that it's operating. This does have a reverb, but the reverb is an electronic type. It's not like a spring tank, but you can hear it's doing its thing. So the next step let's get somebody over here with a guitar and see what she sounds like. So we're in clean mode right now, right?
We should be fairly clean. Yeah.